I got my license as a sophomore in college in 1983. My first listing appointment was a relative. So I had this appointment coming up. So I grabbed this agent in the office and said, hey, will you role play with me? I need to practice. And we did that every day for like a week. And then they didn't hire me.
This is Chris Heller. He's been called one of the most influential leaders in real estate, from leading Keller Williams as CEO to scaling Mela Home to now serving as president of OJLabs.
How do I pretend I'm more experienced? Or how do I pretend I'm older than I am? Let's lean into what you are. The amount of agents that invest in their skills is the minority. But if we look at every top agent, they're the most skilled.
Chris Heller has spent his career shaping the future of the industry, but behind the titles and accolades is a story of relentless drive, bold decision-making, and a vision for what real estate could become.
Life's too short to be in situations that aren't good situations. There's people that you get energy from, and there's people that take energy. But if we really look at all our conversations, like, why are we still having conversations with people that are taking our energy? Why are we exposing ourselves to that?
He's not just an executive, he's a strategist, a best-selling author, and a leader who's redefined the playbook for growth.
The awareness is the first step, and then, making a decision on what action you're going to take or what you're going to do is the next. Resist the temptation. Pick one or two things and get really good at those one or two things.
I'm glad we were able to do a special edition of the pod. I feel like every agent traditionally starts on the buy side, especially first-time home buyers, because it requires less skill, right? And very much where I started. I strictly sold pretty much buyers for the first couple of years because I didn't have the confidence to even pitch a seller, even if I was probably already qualified.
Yeah.
And, list to last is something you and I were raised on, but I don't think enough agents appreciate it, right? At scale, most brokerages are 60-40 buy side, 40% listing sided, just because listings are concentrated with very successful seasoned agents.
Yeah.
What would you tell an agent who is apprehensive, right? Because again, I figured that out 5 years in, and I went all in on listings and never looked back. But you did that from the jump.
I did it from the jump just because that's what I was told. Now, I don't know that I had the confidence or anything else. In fact, my first listing appointment was a relative, and it was my brother's brother-in-law. And so I had this appointment coming up. So I grabbed this agent in the office and said, hey, will you role play with me? I need to practice. And we did that every day for like a week. Every day, hey, when can you role play with me again? I don't even know what the idea of role play, and I don't think we called it role play then, because I don't think that was even like a thing. It's like, can I practice on you? And then they didn't hire me. They were a relative, they were a referral, and they still didn't hire me because I was brand new.
I always thought that relatives and friends, especially in the beginning, were the hardest.
Yeah, well, apparently I proved that. But look at my first listing that I got was a for sale by owner. And it was, I decided I was also gonna do some farming. It was in a neighborhood that I wanted. Okay, this is gonna be my neighborhood. And this guy had a for sale by owner sign up. Called him. He said, hey, I think I already know who I'm gonna list with. So thanks, but no thanks. And I was just determined to get it. I must have called him a half a dozen times that we spoke. I don't know how many times I called him. Every time, hey, I told you I already selected the agents. They're experienced. They sold other homes here. And I just wouldn't take no for an answer. I probably knocked on his door 3 times, left him stuff. I would talk to him or knock on his door, and I'd have a note card in my car. I'd write him a note card, and I'd drive straight to the post office, so thinking he'll get it the very next day. And then finally, I called him on, I don't know what number. He goes, hey, that's fine. If you want to come over and talk to me, you can come over and talk to me, but yeah, I'm not gonna. I already told you who I'm hiring. So I went over there. It was at night. I remember walking out of the office, the broker and a bunch of agents were standing outside, and the broker goes, hey, look at Heller. He's going to talk to a for sale by owner that already told him he's not going to hire him. And they all laughed. And, I met with the guy and just said, hey, you're going to be my first client. I made the decision. This is going to be my career. You're going to be my first client. No one has more time. No one's more hungry. And he was a little older guy. I was probably about the age, I think, of his sons. And he said, you know what? I'll give you a try. Here's the best part. Like a week and a half later, he calls me and says, hey, Chris, I have a friend that's coming down on Saturday, and I think he wants to buy the house, but I don't want to deal with him. Can you be here on Saturday? I said, yeah. And the guy bought the house. And so my first deal was both sides.
So what that tells me, like that actually is congruent with something I say from stage all the time. I think too many people don't give themselves enough credit to play the hand that they're dealt. I actually say from stage, in the beginning, I used to tell people, I don't have wife or kids. I have literally nobody else to talk to. I will hold your house open Monday through Sunday, whatever hours you're willing to get out of the house and let me put a sign out front.
Yeah.
And I think people don't appreciate that whatever moment or station in life they're at becomes a superpower if they just simply own it.
If they own it. What a lot of agents do, they do the opposite. Like, oh, how do I pretend I'm more experienced, or how do I pretend I'm older than I am? It's like, no, let's lean into what you are. If there's a pink elephant in the room, talk about the pink elephant.
Well, I think what you probably did very well in that appointment was just be radically authentic,
Yeah.
right? And I don't care what era of time we're in. I think people crave that and appreciate it. And I think going into the next era with so much technology, commoditizing communication, whether it's written, verbal, or video, we're about to live in a time where I think people are going to be to pay a premium or, have a premium experience when someone delivers an amazing human experience.
Yeah, I think it's going to be flipped right now, and for the last several years, even a couple decades, people have been leveraging technology to differentiate themselves. I think, to your point, that's going to become, everyone's going to be using it, and using it the way that we can only imagine at this point. What will be the difference is that human experience, that human connection, that thing that makes you stand out over, all the videos are getting, whether they're AI generated or real or anything else. It's that, people still like that. We're still humans, and we're the type of animal that likes that social interaction.
So tell me what you've seen dramatically change, and also what you've seen not change in the time you've been in the business.
Yeah. I got my license when I was a sophomore in college, 1983. So I've seen the internet come. I mean, when the internet was coming, it was like the end of agents. There aren't going to be any agents. Everyone's going to do anything online. Electronic lock boxes, like, oh my gosh, this is going to change, and people are going to know the MLS going online from a book, an analog, AI and all the things are changed. So technology will continue to change, and at a faster pace than we can even imagine. And that's going to keep happening and keep evolving and everything else. What doesn't change, and what really hasn't changed, is the amount of conversations that we need to have if we want to sell more homes than we're currently selling. I mean, can you get business through social media? Absolutely. But it still takes that connection. And even the business you get off social media or using any other type of technology, at some point still ends in a meeting or a conversation that's face to face. I think I think what we're starting to see, or we will start to see, is more agents realizing that, I need to get better at my skills. I need to get better at my face-to-face meetings and those type of things, because, consumers are just going to have more and more options and exposed to more and more options than ever before.
What do you tell someone getting into the business today? And is that different than someone who's been 20 years in the business that's seasoned?
It probably is, but there's certain things that would be applicable to both. I think someone getting in the business today, I think a lot of agents, when I look around at agents I've gotten in the business and watch them in their first couple of years, they struggle to make traction because there's so many things they can be doing, so many different ways of trying to get business, so many different ways of they see this agent doing that or that agent doing that, and they're doing like little pieces of everything. And I think what I would say to an agent today is, resist the temptation of, pick one or two things and get really good at those one or two things. And it doesn't matter what they are, right? It's creating content.
Is it lead gen based? Is it skills based?
You need lead gen first, right? Because it doesn't matter. You could be the most skilled person in the world. If you aren't talking to anyone that's, going to put those skills to use. But then you need to work on your skills. And that's the biggest thing I think we both have seen over the years, is that the amount of agents that invest in their skills is the minority.
Yeah, that's a
but
great point.
if we look at every top agent, they're the most skilled, right? And they weren't born that way. Like we didn't come in.
I have a great story for that. I started also my sophomore year of college, which I forgot is something we have in common. But when I was like 23, I paid the Keres Institute of Negotiation. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
on the back of all the
What was
airline.
the name? Charles or Alex? Or-
Yeah. So back then there was magazines and planes,
Yeah.
and they were known as the best negotiation training on the planet, and it was thousands of dollars, like in the early 2000s. And there was like 40 people in the room, and we all introduced ourselves, and there was only 2 people out of 40 who were in real estate. And the instructor paused, and we happened to be sitting near each other. One was a commercial broker and me. And he said, just so you know, one of them is the best negotiator in the room, and the other one is the worst, because they only come in 2 speeds. And the rest were high-level executives, oil commodity traders. And I always found it fascinating that most agents never actually says, like, what do you do? What is what you get paid for? For me, as a listing agent, it was always negotiating. It was understanding, I would say right now the Bible is Chris Voss has never split the difference, understanding an anchor and finding that price point, understanding what moves the conversation. We all make emotional decisions to justify them logically.
Yeah, I think I agree, and I also think when it comes to lead generation, now there's a whole group of agents that don't know what they don't know what that means or what that really looks like. But for me, it was like common sense. Like if I'm gonna talk to 50 people a day, and I know someone else is talking to 50 people a day, if I'm getting better results, it's just because my skills are better, right? It's like, so how can I get more results out of the time I'm spending? So for me, it was a skill. So then, all right, I got to practice. And I always, I wanted to be, when I was younger, 9th grade, meet with a guidance counselor. What do you want to be when you get older? Is a professional athlete, right? And
What sport?
that's what she asked. And my answer was football, baseball, or basketball. Any one of them. And as a entering in your first year in high school, that's a dream. And then after a season or 2 playing sports, you go, that's not reality. But you look at professional sports, any professional sport, the amount of time that they practice, or Olympic athlete, the amount of time that they put into their trade and to build their skills is at the highest level. And yet in sales, most people aren't willing to do that, or don't know to do it, or don't think about doing it. And it's the quickest.
I mean,
easiest way.
before you went on your first appointment, you role played for a week.
Yeah.
I actually tell agents all the time, the worst thing you can do is practice at the game.
Yeah, that's like Major League Baseball players take batting practice every day. They don't say, "Oh, there's a game tonight, and I'm going to get 3 or 4 at bats. That's good enough." They wouldn't be professional baseball players. They wouldn't be college baseball players, right? So it's practicing, and then people say, "For how long?" Forever. Like when do you stop?
When you retire.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to pivot away from like the meat and potatoes of sales to actually a conversation I don't know if you remember or not, but one thing you and I have in common is we've had public highs and lows.
Yeah.
And I remember after one of those moments for me, I called you for advice, and you shared a lesson that you learned, and I'll never forget. And you may have not even remember saying this to me, but the sentence stuck with me, and I've actually used it. And you said, what I learned from my time in a similar experience was my elbows weren't sharp enough, and it taught me I just want to be around good humans for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, how you came to that conclusion. By the way, like I adopted your philosophy for the rest of my career after that.
Yeah, it's a couple things. Number one, life's too short to be in situations that aren't good situations, right? And we all, not we all, some of us want to help as many people as we can.
Yeah, not all. Some.
Yeah. But we also have to be able to help ourselves and know what's important to us. And whenever you've been in a bad relationship, whether it's a personal relationship or a business relationship, when my marriage ended, I knew exactly what I didn't want. Like I was really clear. I've had business relationships where they ended. I knew exactly what I didn't want. Like I will not be in that situation again, or I will not tolerate this, or I will not have this in my life. And look, some people are fine with that. Some people are, Game of Thrones, bring it on. But I'm like, no, I don't want to spend time and energy on that. I want to put my time and energy into building, into creating, into growing. Not like watching my back or pulling the knives out of my back or or thinking who I'm going to stab in the back. Like that's not.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, it is exhausting. I had a guy that worked for me. I remember one day he came into my office. He said, we burn about 10,000 calories a day here, and 8,000 of those are on bullshit. So the and and I was like, no, like, you're right. I spend a lot of time and energy on dealing with stuff that's not productive. So yeah, I think it's super important. I mean, whether it's the company you're with, the relationships you're in, the people you spend time with, um, what you watch, what you listen to, all of that is has an impact on you and on how you think and how your time and energy is being spent. There's I think we talked about this too, and that is there's people that you get energy from, and there's people that take energy.
Energy vampires.
Yeah, and every time we have a conversation, I leave that conversation, on a high. Like I get energy
Vice versa.
interacting with you. But if we really look at all our conversations, like why are we still having conversations with people that are taking our energy? Why are we exposing ourselves to that? Why are we spending time with those? Now, sometimes you can't help it. You're related to them, so you make the best of those. But a lot of times you have a choice, and just the awareness is the first step, and then making a decision on what action you're going to take or what you're going to do is the next.
So my kids are 10 and 8, and it's funny because right now I get to see them overreact and let the smallest things be a big thing.
Yeah.
And it's such a good reminder of when I do it, right? Because when my 10-year-old, who's a tween, as she reminds me, everything is the end of the world. And there's a saying I've been kind of reminding her, and every time it happens, and I said, please don't let anyone rob you of your joy. At which point she, kind of centers herself. And I've now said it so many times that I remind myself to not let others rob me of my joy.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's, one of the exercises I've done is, it's almost like radical gratitude. It's like, hold on, I'm safe. I'm in a safe country. I have a roof over my head. I have food. My kids are healthy. My parents are still alive. And all of a sudden, whatever I was freaking out about seems to get put in context. Cool. Any skill sets, because I know you are phenomenal at staying centered and not letting people rob you of your joy. How do you do that?
Yeah, I'm human. All right, so those things happen, but I think I catch it quickly, and I so I'm aware of it. Like it's the alarms go off, and then it's like, okay, what's really important? None of us are getting out of this thing alive, and so at some point you go, okay.
I think we've had that conversation more than once as a reminder to each other.
Yeah. I mean, we see it in agents. You see agents that get in a transaction, they get so wrapped around the axle, and it's like, really? This is not life or death. Now, if we were all heart surgeons or ER physicians, it is life or death. And those are the people that really have to be like unattached. And so that's another way that I do it. It's that commitment versus attachment. Like being committed, I'm committed to the deal closing or the best outcome, but I try not to be attached, because when you get attached, then it becomes emotional. You tend to say or do things you shouldn't say or do, and so just focus on what the commitment is versus the attachment to it.
Well, I can't think of a better place to stop. Thank you so much for spending some time with me as we're in this amazing setting at the gathering, and I'm glad we were able to do a special edition of the pod.